Hello, students. This is Mr. Barterin here. We're continuing our discussion of the Industrial Revolution. In the first video, you guys saw how we discussed the Industrial Revolution and its origins. We then talked about the causes of industrialization. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Commercial Revolution and some of the biggest inventions of the Industrial Revolution. So we're going to put our notes in these two spots accordingly. So let's take a look. Who remembers what this is? Well, if you guessed that this was a map of the triangle slave trade, you are correct. This is the map of how Europe used Africans, sent them to the Americas to work as slaves on plantations. We're going to focus on what happens to the raw materials that the slaves working in the Americas send over to Europe. We're going to focus on these raw materials such as sugar, tobacco, and cotton. What does Spain, what does France, what does Great Britain do with these raw materials? And that's going to be the focus of our conversation today, because that transpires into the world's first global economy, which is known as the Commercial Revolution. And I think Angelina is going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second.
Like Mr. Martin just said, the Commercial Revolution was the first global economy. This is when Europeans began to invest money in items such as sugar and tobacco, and colonies began to exist only to benefit their home country. This is called mercantilism.
Great job, Angelina. And we know we've discussed mercantilism at great lengths. A lot of people assume that the colonies, like the early colonies, like the Pilgrims, came for religious reasons. And some colonies did exist for those particular reasons. But the other colonies, such as Jamestown, and especially the colonies in Georgia and down the plantations in Jamaica and Haiti and some of those islands, existed solely to make money for Great Britain and for Paris. And this is the purest example of mercantilism, when the colony exists only to benefit and enrich their home country.
Increasing global trade led to the rise in capitalism. That meant that business people used their profits to hire employees to manufacture more goods. Until the 18th century, many Europeans were farmers, and they produced what they need to survive. This is called a traditional economy. After the 1700s, machines began making goods, which led to the Industrial Revolution. This change occurred first in the textile industry in England.
Thanks, Angelina. As she just said, the first change to occur in the textile industry was in England. That's very important. I want you guys to highlight that, put it in your notes, because a lot of test questions will ask and be centered around where did the Industrial Revolution begin. And we know from previous classes that textiles is nothing more than the raw materials that becomes clothing. And as the raw materials came over from the Americas, those textiles were used to produce huge amounts of clothing. So we saw that was the first change in industry. Now we're going to look at 4 inventions of the early Industrial Revolution. The first invention was James Watt's steam engine. All right, simple invention, but James Watt harnessed the power of steam energy. He knew that there was energy within the steam. He knew that that energy could be harnessed to turn wheels, that that energy could be used to push and perhaps even pull things. So he knew there was potential energy there, so he harnessed that power in developing the early steam engine. The next is Abraham Darby, and he invented the smelting process, or perfected the smelting process. And the smelting process, I discussed in another video, is not the process of smelling yourself, but it is the process of heating up steel, cooling it, heating it up again, cooling it again, heating it up again, and cooling it until you have a very strong metal. Heating it and cooling it only makes the steel very strong. And the smelting process is actually going to be the backbone of the industrial city as the Industrial Revolution progresses. But it begins with Abner Darby's smelting process. The railroad, before the railroads industry can take off, you need both of these two inventions. You need James Watt's steam engine, obviously, and the smelting process helped perfect stronger railroads. The third, a very simple invention of the Industrial Revolution, are enclosed fields. Fences were tremendously important. Early fences were usually just rock piles that were maybe knee-high, but they were high enough to keep cows and other cattle from crossing and leaving people's properties. Those fences were used on manurial plains, and then as technology got better, especially with hand tools, they began splitting wood and created split rail fences. These fences kept cattle and livestock in. It also meant that farmers wouldn't have to chase down cattle and other livestock. They could focus more on the farm at hand. The final invention of the early Industrial Revolution is John Deere's seed drill. Now, this is a photograph not of a 17th century seed drill, but this is a 21st century seed drill. Early in the Industrial Revolution, farmers would plant seeds by hand. Fair, fine, it was effective. But some seeds would grow to fruition, other seeds would die. So with John Deere's seed drill, he could now have a device where the front of the plow turned over the soil and the back of the plow shot a seed in it. And in this particular picture, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shoots. So as this particular farmer is crafting his seed drill, it's shooting seeds down. So if one of those 10 seeds fails, that's okay. He still has 9 more. If 2 of the 10 fail, that's okay. He still has 8 more. There's still a chance that his crop, his yield will be successful. So don't underestimate the power of the seed drill. It was a very primitive but very effective invention during the Industrial Revolution. If you feel that we went a little bit too quickly today, please watch the video again. You can download the PowerPoint onto Edmodo. But please make sure you have this video and this segment done before moving on to segment 3.